Now let's look at the hoof capsule. Pretty unique piece of equipment because remember it's deformable. It's viscoelastic. It's able to change shape as the horse bears weight. And again, it's going to be a mirror image of your distal phalanx, and all the structures contained within. Look at your coronary coriums. Look at your lamina corium, your coronary corium part. They all fit right into this groove here where it grows from. In other words, it's basically going to take on, to a good part, the shape of your distal phalanx or your bone there. Okay? Now we can divide the wall up. Number one here would be the periopal or your stratum externum. This is the shiny part of your horse's foot that you see on the outside. It just, you can take it away with a rasp. The bulk of your hoof wall is going to be the stratum medium, okay? And your inner part of the wall is going to be your stratum internum, and this is basically the external or the non-sensitive lamina. Now I want you to look at something else here, is that this area here, whether it's a white foot, a brown foot, a gray foot, a green foot, it's always going to be non-pigmented at the inner part of the bulk of your hoof wall. This is where your white line disease occurs, not at your white line. Okay? This is where it is on the inner part of the hoof wall. This is pretty interesting too. If we look at, if we take the foot apart, you'll see, remember the hoof tubules I was telling you about? If you look at it, here's the outside of the wall, the inside of the wall. You can see where the tubules are really arranged in really distinct zones. See how they're real tightly packed here? And then they have a less dense as you get toward the inside there. As this horse bears weight, that weight bearing or that energy goes from an area with a high concentration to low concentration, so the energy transfer is smoothed out. This also plays a big role in cracks because we've seen horses with little cracks at their toe. Well, they'll only go up about a half inch and stop. Would you wonder why they stop? Well, as they go inside, they sort of get pushed off at right angles. So, or else, the foot would just split. The hoof capsule is less fracture resistant than bone. You can fracture a bone faster or easier than you can fracture the hoof capsule of a horse. That's proven. Okay? And there you can see where it goes from high to low. Okay. Bars. This is what makes my world go around. These are probably one of the most important structures in the horse. This is the heel. The heel's at the wall. In other words, it's inflicted. In other words, and they run forward. Okay? These are a weight-bearing structure. Okay? They give the heel additional strength, but they also allow lateral movement. Take these bars away and you think about, geez, you put weight on there, the hoof capsule would just go to the outside. They hold the hoof capsule. In other words, they allow lateral movement, but they stabilize the back part of it. And they're very well developed in feral horses and zebras. Just thought I'd throw that in. Okay? Have a good look at this slide. Again, if we take the back of the foot, here's your hoof wall coming around. Here's where your bars were. If we take the bars out of there, what do we have? We have lamina, don't we? Okay? And if we have lamina underneath the structure, it's a weight-bearing structure or a weight-supporting structure. But you hear all this stuff. Well, let's take those bars out of there. Let's leave the bars alone. This is your heel. Okay? And this is what we're going to term a heel base. And again, this is what I spent half my life trying to put back in horses. This is what we call the heel base. And this is the buttress of the heel, the angle of the sole, the bar and hoof wall. This in combination is what forms your heel base. Okay? It's critical to the health of the horse. Just for example, let's take this bar out of there and you see some of these low-heeled horses, they start to become underrun. Now you take that heel and as that horse walks, he rubs against the shoe. Okay? You take that shoe off, turn it upside down, you got a trough cut in that shoe by that foot. You've all seen it. Now take this heel base, take the same shoe, take it off a month later, it'll be nice and shiny, but it won't have a groove cut in it because it slides against it. So you're going to have less destruction to your heel there with a good base. Okay? This is a horse that I know was not touched by human hands. This was taken at Dr. Harry Werner's practice up in Connecticut. He's the vice president of AAP this year. Okay? And I took this when the horse was under anesthesia. Look what the horse did himself. Look at the bars. Look at the frog there. Okay? Look at the nice heavy hoof wall. Nobody ever touched it. We could only screw it up. Now put this horse into domestic, okay? And this came from a really, really good place. Look at this foot. Look at the hoof wall growth here. Look at the hoof wall growth here. Look at the hoof wall growth. This horse is trying. But we as humans, we're allowing, or the client is saying, "Oh, John, you touch those heels, this horse is getting low. You know, you're going to find a new job. You know, you're not doing this horse again." So you allow those heels to grow forward, okay? Frog starts to go backwards. You lose your bar. You lose your heel here, angle the sole, and they start to turn in underneath there. This is where the whole problem starts. All downhill from here. Okay? Frog, we really don't know what the frog does. Of all the research and everything, but the frog's sort of been left out. We don't have really a clue what the frog does. It has more moisture than any part of the foot than it has. If you take the frog out, you'll see on the digital cushion, there's all kinds of sweat glands that are sitting there to keep this thing moist. And sometimes you say, well, geez, how does it get so hard? Any frog you have, you just take the outer covering off there, it's going to be nice and pliable underneath. That's what the sweat glands do. Okay? We know it assists the digital cushion with expansion of the foot. We know it plays a role in concussion. It aids in traction. When I worked in Africa, we did a lot of work on zebras. And the only reason zebras can walk up and down rocks or up and down cliffs or whatever, because the frog set out in the back of the foot there for traction. So we know it plays a role in traction. Okay? Here's a picture of the frog. We like to have the frog to be 60%, the width of the frog to be at least 60% of the length. Okay? If we don't have that, we start to have problems in the back of the foot. Okay? That's a given. The sole, again, this is the other part. The sole and the bars are two. You're never going to have a happy horse unless you have adequate sole depth. No matter what you put on top of there, other than putting Frank's Vettech pouring sole in there. Now that could be a little bit of, could give us a lot of help. Frank has a wonderful product, and he's sitting in the audience back there. Okay, the sole, we like to have it concave. Okay, because this mimics the surface of the distal phalanx or coffin bone. It's concave. Okay, stands to reason. This concavity, in my mind, although ample evidence is not out there, okay, that if it's concave, it's not really a weight-bearing structure. Okay, we know it plays a role in protection. It plays a role in concussion by flattening and being concave, and it can't be too thick. Okay. There's what we like to see. And if you have a nice thick sole, you're going to have a nice, firm, solid sole wall junction there. Okay? The white line, do you ever think about what is the white line? Okay? The white line is basically your sole wall junction. And it consists of a thin layer of wall. The terminal ends of the lamina secrete this yellow plastic area. And the inner part of the sole. The first part of the sole is different than the sole back here, meant to bear weight. That's your weight-bearing structure right there. That's what forms your white line. And if you notice, and if you look at your horse's foot when you go home, okay, the white line is never white. It's yellow. It's a yellow plastic, elastic kind of a tissue. Okay? You think you have traffic jams here? Okay? You ought to try getting through with these elephants here in India. I've been looking at a horse in India monthly since January, and this is the real deal. This is what it looks like going into the toll booth. Okay. Let's look at function, okay? And this is the way the structures fulfill their purpose, okay? Protection, okay? The bear weight or the support weight, whichever term you want to use, okay? And to absorb concussion, okay? Protection is one of the biggest things, okay? And by protecting these structures here, we need a nice thick hoof capsule, we need a nice sole depth there, and we need nice soft tissue structures. If we lose the soft tissue structure, we don't have any protection in the back of the foot, do we? Okay? As we said, the hoof wall, it's a viscoelastic structure, and we think about it, in other words, every time that horse's foot, 1,000 pounds, 1,200 pounds comes down, the hoof capsule deforms. Okay? And as soon as you take the horse lifts his foot off the ground and you take weight off, it goes back to its original shape. But if the horse is bearing abnormal weight on one part of the foot or one side of the foot, over time it's going to deform, isn't it? This is where we get our hoof capsule distortions. Okay? And if we go ahead and change the way he lands, or we change the way he loads his foot, we can go ahead and put that foot back to some degree of normalcy. And we talked about hoof cracks earlier on and the density of the tubules. Diagrammatically, okay, you'll see these different shapes of hoof tubules, and think of these as shock absorbers in your hoof wall. Every time the horse lands, they give a bit. Okay, but what is unique here is the intertubular horn, or the tissue between these tubules. And this is the other part of why it's so fracture resistant, or why every horse doesn't have a crack, or if you hit a sharp rock or whatever. It's hard to get a crack at a horse's foot. And you'll see that these fibrils that form your intertubular horn all through here, look at it as you go back. Look at the striations there. They all change different shapes. Try and find a crack that's going to be able to find its way through that to the inner hoof wall. Pretty amazing structure. Okay? Does everybody understand that? It's the intertubular horn, really, that makes it so fracture or crack resistant. Okay? Again, this is just diagrammatically showing what happens when you start to get into the hoof wall. Your crack or an opening is pushed off to right angles. Again, because of the density of the tubules, and also because of the fibrils in your intertubular horn. Okay? Anti-concussive mechanisms. Okay? We like to have a nice, big, thick frog there. Okay? You can't beat it. Okay? Okay? 1 unit back there. Okay? Again, this is a micrograph, again, of the lamina. Okay? Pretty amazing architecture, okay? Again, if this is intact and you have good circulation to it, this is one of your anti-concussive devices, because this is going to give, in other words, between the hoof and the ground within the hoof capsule, okay? Your plexuses, one at the coronary band, one on either side of the lateral cartilages, one underneath the sole, if we have a nice sole, okay? The way the horse is shod plays a big role. If you don't have a nice heel base and a little bit for that horse to work on there, this is heel expansion here. In other words, every time that he moves, he slides out onto his foot. Okay? Okay? That's one of your shock absorbing mechanisms. Okay? Again, if we look at the deep digital flexor tendon here, okay, you'll see where it forms a sling. So when this horse bears weight, he's going to go downwards and backwards. He's going to form into the sling. If we lose the digital cushion, and if we lose those structures in the back of the foot there, okay, we're losing that sling. Everything revolves around those soft tissues in the back of the foot. Okay? Diagrammatically, again, remember I showed you the extensions on the lateral cartilages, okay? And here's your bars, okay? You'll see they're in really close proximity there. So if you have nice bars there, when that horse lands, it's going to help the expansion of that hoof capsule in the back. If this hoof capsule is working properly, we're using the proper physiology. You have the proper physiology, you have the proper circulation.